be here today. I have a lot of information to partake and give to every one of you. And I know it's not information that you expect to get from TLI, but I know it's information that will help each and every one of you. Because it's information that I feel, as last year's parliamentarian, that every officer should have, especially those that are in specific areas of officer placement. Governance and parliamentary procedure. How many of you know what governance is? That's what I figured. It's the documents that you have to work with in order to know what you can and can't do. And in Toastmasters, there's a lot of them. There's not just one or two, there's a lot of them. And depending on where you're at as an officer, whether you're a district officer or a club officer, you have different ones that you have to look at before you know what you can do. My name is DJ McMurray. As I just said, I was the parliamentarian for last year, and I decided that I needed to train our officers in parliamentary procedure. So last TLI season, I did one on motions, and I'm going to cover a little bit of that in this parliamentary session. I'm a DTM. I've been a Toastmaster since 2009. I've been a parliamentarian since 2004. So I know pretty much what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say I know everything, because I'll tell you right now, the book that I'm working from is this one. Parliamentary Procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. It's not a very big book, but the print in it is so small that if it was a regular size book, it would still be huge. But this is the book that's the basis for parliamentary procedure. That's a great book to read if you want to be put to sleep. Quite frankly, I don't want to be put to sleep. I just want to know what I need to know. So Robert's Rules of Order, in brief, is the one I suggest that everyone should get. If you have to preside over meetings, if you have to preside over business meetings, if you want to know more about what you're doing, this is the book to get. So those are the two books that I work with the most, and I think that each and every one of you should look at those two books, or at least be aware that they're there. For this session, we've got your handout that came out in your participation guide on page 34 that you can make notes on. You've got a 2-page printout of my slideshow, and you all should have gotten a club constitution, which I will need back because we're going to use them for the last session. I don't want to have TLI pay for everyone to have one of these when you can get your own eventually. But those will be the 3 documents that we will be working on. Okay. Helps if you turn it on. My objectives today is for you to know what documents exist, how many documents you have at your disposal to find out what you can and can't do in Toastmasters. Just as an indication, this is the book I used last year that tells everything you can do in Toastmasters. This is their bylaws, policies and procedures, and constitution for the clubs. Everything I had to have to know what was going on, if I was asked a question, is in that book. I made sure I carried that book with me at every meeting I went to, and I almost carried it with me all the time because I was getting phone calls every once in a while from wonderful officers who said, "Oh, I got a problem, how do I deal with it?" because there are procedures you have to do in order to deal with the problems or in order to run your club. How do these documents work together? Which of them take precedence over the other ones? If one says one thing and something else says something different or a little different, you're not sure which one you should be listening to. How does that work? Understand what you can change in the club constitution and how to go about doing that. And one of the ways, the main way to do it, is through processing motions. So we're going to go through a brief little 6-point processing of motions so you have an idea of exactly what you're doing when you go to process a motion and how to accomplish that. Let's get started. State laws, where TI is incorporated. That's the first law that takes effect over our organization. That is California. Now we're moving our headquarters to Denver, but that doesn't necessarily mean the laws in Denver, Colorado will be the laws that they will be going under, because I don't know if they're changing their corporate status to Denver, Colorado. All I know is that they are changing their location at this point. So if they don't change their corporation to Colorado, they leave it in California, then the state law will not change. It'll still be California. Oops. Articles of Incorporation. This is the document that they put in to the state of California and said, we're going to be an educational organization. They also used it with the federal government to get the 501c3 so that they were able to be a nonprofit organization. Toastmasters International bylaws. This is a very nice document. It's very well put together. There's a lot of information in it, and it covers a lot of material. But it doesn't cover the things that you would want to change when pathways changes, or when you change the educational functions, or when you change some other function, or you decide to add another committee. Those things are not in the bylaws, because the bylaws are meant to only cover those things that you want set in stone, that you don't want to have to change except under extreme conditions. Those things are important not to change. And they've got two different bylaws. They've got the Toastmasters International one, and they've got the district one. The district one looks at just district issues and closes in on what Toastmasters wants to see the districts do. The first one, the Toastmasters International one, is the umbrella one that covers all of Toastmasters. The district one covers just those districts that have been established. In other words, if you're in a district that isn't established, you wouldn't have this bylaw to go to. Then you have your club constitution, which is what we're going to cover today. How many of you have ever looked at your club constitution? Oh, I'm impressed. I got more than one hand. The club constitution is something that each and every person should look at some point when they become an officer, to know what's in it. And then you have policies and protocols. These are the things that support the Constitution and the bylaws, but they can be changed fairly easily and readily to cover different situations when it comes up. These are the things that, if the accounting software changes for Toastmasters International, they can change the protocols to match that new software. They're changing to pathways. The protocols will change for the educational portion of those protocols because they're changing the educational format. They're not going to have the same awards at the same times that they've had before. So it's going to be an interesting change in protocols. And I'll be interested to see what those new protocols are when they come out. I have not seen them yet. But these are the levels of authority in the order that they take precedence. You start at the policies and work your way up until you find what you're looking for. If by the time you get to the bylaws, you don't find an answer to your question, you're not going to find it in the articles, and you're probably not going to find it in the state law, but you may. But the other place you can look, which will give you more information, is the Roberts Rules of Order. Wherever the documents for Toastmasters does not cover something, then your last resort to find your answer is Roberts Rules of Order. This isn't the book that takes precedence over everything. This is the book that catches everything that's left out. Any questions? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Where does a club normally keep the Constitution?
We'll get to that in a minute, because that's what we're going to cover starting now.
What's the most frequent question that you get as parliamentarian?
The most frequent question I get as a parliamentarian is, how do I find out how to do this? Or I need to do that and I can't figure out what the procedure is. It's usually some type of procedural issue that they want to know. My biggest question is, how do we elect officers? Or how do we elect an officer between the officer elections? You know, if I have to replace this officer, how do I go about doing that? That's my biggest one. And the best way to do it is for the executive board to appoint somebody and then get the membership to vote them in. Yes, sir.
Which of these documents do you suggest we have on hand at each meeting in writing that you most refer to?
Club Constitution.
Got it. Thank you.
The Club Constitution is going to answer most of your questions. Protocols, the sections of protocols for your club probably would be handy too. But that's just a few pages, so you wouldn't have to have the whole document. Where do you find your club constitution? She just asked me that question. That's an interesting question because most people don't have a clue. How many of you know how to get into Club Central? Okay. How many of you know how to log on to Toastmasters International under your name? Okay. If you are an officer, you should be able to drop down to Club Central and get into it for the club that you're an officer of. In there, I have listed under the participation guide exactly where to find it. Because you have to go into Club Central and you have to find the documents and the club constitution, and it's kind of a step process. So I didn't want to go over every step here. What is the club constitution? This is a pretty good sized book, isn't it? And it's double-sided. It's pretty good sized print, not real big. But there's only a few things, and if you look at the last 2 pages, the addendum of standard club options, that is the only portion of the Constitution that you can change in the club. Everything that's a blank line can be changed. And should be changed periodically. You can find this also at Club Central. This portion of the club constitution is in Club Central for you to make those changes. Who should be making these changes when your club has voted to make a change? Secretary. Yes, the secretary should be. That's their part of their job, is to make sure that this is up to date. If you go in today and look at it, how will you know when it was updated last?
There's a date on there.
There is. On the screen, you will see a date that it was last updated. My club has no idea when it was updated last because I go in there and play with it sometimes. So how do you go about changing these? You have to have a motion. You have to have your club, first of all, you have to inform your club that you're going to make changes in their addendums. That you're going to make a change and what that change is. And make it so that everyone has a chance to be at the meeting that you're going to vote on it. Usually 1 or 2 club meetings is sufficient, depending on what is going on. If a member can't attend, they can't vote. But that don't mean they don't have a voice. They can call one of the officers and state their opinion on doing it. That officer should effectively let the other officers know how those opinions are going. And usually it's the president that they contact. How many of you have made a change in the last 2 years of your constitution that you know of? What kind of change did you make?
Meeting location change.
Okay.
Club name?
Club name?
We voted on members that are coming into the club, so if we need to remove them, we can vote them out.
Okay.
Frequency of meetings.
Frequency of meetings?
We changed the time of the meetings.
Time of the meetings? Any others? Dues? That's one that everyone should have changed in the last 2 years. Why? Because Toastmasters International changed their dues. Club dues, number 5. The dues of this club for active individual members shall be so much per person per period. Such dues shall be payable in advance. It's supposed to be on or of or before. And then there's a little parentheses underneath that says club dues shall include the amount Toastmasters International membership payment. Okay, your club dues are $60. Club dues used to be $36. They've gone up to $45. If you did not change your club dues, who's paying the difference between 36 and 45? Right, because you can only legally take what your club dues here says from the club members. How many of your club members pays the extra $9 anyway? All of them. Because they know that the cost went up $9 and they're not going to take the money away from their club. But legally, if someone wanted to challenge it, you need to make sure that what the club needs and what Toastmasters International requires is included in that number. Anytime Toastmasters International changes their amount, every club should be changing theirs.
When and if we do make a change to our constitution, is that forwarded to international?
When you update it on here, it automatically changes. They're automatically made aware of it when you change it on Club Central. And if you change anything that they don't like, they'll let you know about it. I guarantee. These options are all just fill in the blanks, which is a very easy way to do it, and a very effective way. And I'm glad that they've done it this way. I wish some of the wording in it was a little different, but I think it's an effective way for them to do it. I've already asked you when they were last changed, and I've told you what the procedure is. The procedure is really simple. It's not something you have to really think about. You tell them you're going to vote on it. Somebody, usually a committee, has already discussed it, or the executive committee has discussed it. They bring it before the members, and the members vote on it. And it's just that simple. There's discussion, the whole process. We'll go through that at the end. Right now, what I want to do is have each and every one of you break out in groups of 5 or 6. Here's 5 here. And I'm going to ask my assistant to pass these out to every group of 5 or 6. There may be a few more in some of them because I don't know how many here I've got of these. And hand them that. What it is it's a question about your club constitution. Each group is given a question to research in this club constitution. Now, I'm not going to say the answer is in the club constitution because that would be a lie. But the answer should be in here. And if it's not in here, then you should be able to figure it out from what is in here.
We don't have any copies.
She's working on getting them passed out. It'll take her a minute or two to hand them out. One person out of every 5 group, raise your hand so she can hand them to you. Pick your 5 and one person out of every 5 group. Oh, you've got 2 hands here. You guys can all work together. Okay. You good? Let's be quiet a minute. Answer your question. Give me exactly what it requests on the sheet, and one person in your group will give me a report. Not all the groups will report. Yeah, she's working on getting it to you. Yeah, keep your hand up so she can find you. You don't need to put yours up. He likes to put his hand. Let him put his hand up. He can wear his arm out. Put your hand up. Okay, who wants to go first? Who's got question 1? Let's go with this guy up here. And please speak very loudly. Please stand up and speak loudly.
Hi, everyone. What is the purpose of the Toastmasters Club? Softball. It's right at the start, Article 1 purpose. Note that it's basically the club mission, which we read at the start of every meeting in my club. Just read the purpose out loud. The mission of the Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every individual member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth.
Thank you. How many of your clubs actually recite that at the beginning of your club meetings? How many of you recite it and have it on your agenda in some form? Yeah. If you notice, those are the same clubs that are President's Distinguished in most cases. Just a little hint. My club's been doing it for a long time. We made it to President's Distinguished, and then we lost it because we don't have enough members, which is always the hardest part. Okay, who has question number 2? Way back in the back.
Hi, everybody. Question 2 is, who are members? we collected information from Article 2, Section 1, and Section 2. And our answer to the question is people 18 or older who are invited to join and voted in by the club. And you're a member if you pay dues and are in good standings with Toastmasters International.
Very good. Thank you. How many of these clubs here actually vote your members in? Good job. Okay, let's go to number 5. Who has number 5? Oh, over here.
Hello. Our question was, does a member have responsibilities? You'll find this in Article 2, Section 3. All active individual members shall be entitled to all rights and privileges of this club, and all individual members shall share in its responsibilities. These responsibilities shall include support of its purpose and constructive contribution to its program and activities.
Great, thank you. What activities do you have in a club? Serving as an officer, helping with open houses, membership, paying your membership dues on time, making sure that you're reaching out to your friends and family and having them come to meetings too. Because the only way you're going to have a good club is to continuously have new members. Because like the gentleman before me said, Tom, you lose about 1/3, or Toastmasters overall loses about 1/3 every year of their membership. So building more membership all the time is very important. Number 6.
Madam Facilitator, point of order.
Yes.
Would you like to know the answer to number 4?
Well, yeah, I guess we could go back to number 4. Please stand up and give us number 4.
The question is, what is a member in good standing? And basically, it's a person who is paid-up member, who has not missed a certain amount of meetings, and it doesn't fall below the standards established by the club.
Correct. Thank you. How do you know how many meetings are too many meetings to miss? It's not in the club constitution. That's something that policies and procedures for your particular club basically has to do. They have to determine if you miss more than 5 or 10 or whatever the number is they choose in the last 3 months or 6 months or whatever, we're going to make you inactive. And a lot of times that doesn't have so much to do with the person and how many meetings they're missing as it is the ability to have a quorum so they can do business. Because if you have a bunch of members that never show up, you can never get a quorum, so you can never proceed to elect officers, pass changes in your addendums, or anything else. So make sure that your officers are looking at how many active members you have. And those that are inactive are put on an inactive status, so they're not part of your quorum. Okay, where did I leave off? 6? Okay, let's go back to 6.
I did question 6.
Okay.
The question is, how do you add honorary members?
Okay.
For the club constitution, Article 2, Section 5 says honorary individual membership may be conferred upon any qualified person by a favorable vote of at least 2/3 of the active individual members at a club business meeting.
Okay. 2/3 of the membership. So if you have, good job. If you have, say, 25 members, and 8 of those very seldom show up, you're not going to be able to put in honorary members or anything else because you're never going to have a quorum. So make sure that your officers are effectively inactivating people that are not working for the club, that are not there. Number 8. Oh, 7. Let's go to 7. I'm losing my place here. I'm not marking them off.
The question for 7 was what fees can a club charge? The answer is found in Article 3, Sections 1 through 4. There are 4 answers. A new member fee, a reinstatement fee, a transfer fee, and club dues, which include Toastmasters International and any individual club dues.
Thank you. We have two groups that were doing that. She has a little different answer.
Well, we found an additional fee in Article 2, Section 4, Paragraph B about inactive membership. So there's a portion of dues that still needs to be paid by inactive.
Right. You can charge inactive members a fee to be kept on the rolls as an inactive member, as long as they're paid at TI. In other words, maybe they are a member of several clubs and they want to stay an inactive member of your club. They don't want to pay Toastmasters dues, but they don't really want to be dropped. They want to stay on your mailing list. They want to stay aware of what your club is doing in case they want to come back. You could constitute or install a fee for them to pay in order to have that accessibility. Most clubs don't, but you can. Yes?
Point of order, question 3.
Okay. Let's go back to question 3. See, your learning point of order. I'm doing a good job.
Just saying. The question is, how do you become a member? The articles that we used was Article 2, Membership, Sections 1 and 2, Qualification and Membership Process.
Good job. Thank you. Okay, where am I? 8? That's where I thought. Okay. Who's got number 8? Okay.
Question reads, if the club is having election, what kind of notice is required? We decided on Article 4, meetings and notices, under Section 2 for special meetings. Under Section 4, be given by first-class mail, telephone, including voicemail, facsimile transmission, or other electronic transmission such as email, personal delivery, or other reasonable means at least 4 days in advance. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Anytime you're going to vote on something that affects the members of your club directly, change of time, anything to do with the bylaws, I would say always notify all the members, including the inactive ones, that you're going to do this. Because it could be something that could affect whether or not you're able to keep all your members, and maybe you want all of their input, and that gives them a chance to do that input. Okay, I'm only going to do a couple more. Number 11. We've got one. We've got 2. Go ahead. I'm going to let you go up there. Go first.
Okay. The question is, can officers hold more than one office in the club? And what office cannot be held with the president's office? And we found the Constitution is going to address that. And according to the cheat sheet, it says that for Robert's rules, the president and the secretary cannot be held by the same person.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
We also found it online for 501c3 organizations states that a nonprofit organization that has been active.
That's right. She's looking at the federal 501c3 rules. So that's exactly where it should be. And I've gotten a little behind myself. These are my objectives for the day. I hope I have accomplished all of them except the last one, and that's because I went by it. Where'd it go? Well, for some reason it didn't come up. But, yeah, it's on the, oh, there it is. Okay. Member requests the floor. You have to get the officer in, presiding officer. Another member has to second it. Presiding officer places it in motion by restating the question. Then you have debate and discussion and a vote on the motion. But the last thing they have to do is the presiding officer has to announce the results. Because without the results, the vote is not complete. This is me and the session you're in now. Please fill out your surveys. This slide is on the slideshow that I gave you, so you have all my contact information. If you have any questions about parliamentary procedure or something you need to do, please feel free to call me or email me, which is probably the best way to get a hold of me.